In the middle of our wedding, my husband suddenly slapped me in front of everyone, right after his sister whispered something to him. The entire room froze in shock. But I didn't cry. I didn't run. I lifted my head, looked him straight in the eyes, and what I did next, in front of all the guests, destroyed him completely. Can you imagine standing at your own wedding, less than an hour married, bathed in golden light, only for your brand new husband to slap you across the face? The champagne flutes stopped trembling, the music died, and in that agonizing, deafening silence, my world shattered. But what I did next, what I said in front of 200 stunned guests, that would absolutely obliterate him. But let me rewind. Let me take you back to how we even got to that moment of beautiful, terrible ruin. I met Julian Clark on literally the worst day of my life. My mom had just died from pancreatic cancer. Quick, brutal, unforgiving. I was 26, leaning against my car in the funeral home parking lot, just trying to remember how to breathe. The air felt thick with grief and exhaust fumes. I couldn't go back inside, couldn't listen to one more well-meaning person tell me she was in a better place. Time doesn't heal, you know? It just teaches you how to walk around with the wound, how to pretend you're not bleeding. Then I heard footsteps. A voice, deep and kind, said, "You look like you need this more than I do." I looked up. There he was, tall, lean, dark hair falling across his forehead, and these incredible sea glass eyes. He was holding out a silver flask. "I don't drink with strangers," I mumbled. He just smiled, took a sip himself, then offered it again. "I'm Julian. Now we're not strangers." I took it. The whiskey burned, but it was a different kind of burn than grief. A cleaner pain. We stood there for what felt like forever, passing that flask back and forth, not talking much, just existing in our separate sorrows, together. That's how he slipped into my life, into the raw, gaping space my mother's death had left behind. Julian was a successful real estate developer, ambitious, confident, the kind of confidence that comes from never truly being broken. He came from old money, the kind that whispers rather than shouts. He'd lost his own mother young, and he said it helped him understand my pain. But understanding loss and living inside it are two very different things. He courted me like something out of a movie. Flowers at my tiny accounting office, dinners at places I could never afford, weekend trips to cozy B&Bs where he'd trace the curve of my spine with his fingertips. "You're different," he'd whisper. "Everyone else wants something from me. You just want me." And God help me, I believed him. Every single word. 6 months in, he introduced me to his sister, Veronica. She was younger, same sharp cheekbones, but her eyes? Pure ice. We met for brunch, and she arrived late, draped in a dress that probably cost more than my rent. "So, you're the accountant?" she said, not even a "nice to meet you." Just a statement, delivered with a faint curl of her lip. Julian always did have a thing for strays. Julian tried to shut her down, but the damage was done. That should have been my first clue, shouldn't it? But I was so desperate to be loved, so eager to fill the void, I ignored every red flag. I told myself she was just protective. I was so wrong. Julian proposed on the anniversary of my mother's death, back in that same parking lot. It was transformed, string lights, a violinist, rose petals everywhere. He knelt, holding a diamond that caught the fading sun like a captured star. "You've made me believe in second chances," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Marry me." I said yes. How could I not? The ring felt heavy, weighty with promise and possibility. I let myself believe I deserved this happiness. We set the date for 18 months out. Plenty of time, I thought, to plan the perfect wedding. Veronica insisted on being my maid of honor. "We're going to be sisters," she said, squeezing my hand a little too tight. But at every fitting, every tasting, I'd catch her watching me with those cold eyes. And sometimes, when she thought I wasn't looking, she'd whisper something to Julian, and his expression would just darken. "What does she tell you?" I asked once. "Nothing important," he'd dismiss. "She's just stressed." But it bothered me. It burrowed under my skin, a splinter I couldn't reach. Then, 3 months before the wedding, I found out I was pregnant. 2 pink lines. Unmistakable. Julian's child. The timing was terrible. We'd planned to wait. But it was happening anyway. Life refusing to follow our careful plans. I decided to tell him that night. I even bought a little onesie that said, "Worth the wait," and wrapped it. I was so nervous, but so excited. This was our future. I arrived at his apartment early, using my key. Lights off, but voices from the bedroom. Julian's voice, and another female. My heart froze. For one horrible second, I thought the worst, but then I recognized the second voice, Veronica. I crept closer, not meaning to eavesdrop, but unable to stop myself. The door was cracked. You have to tell her before the wedding, Veronica was saying. It's not fair to let her walk into this blind. I can't, Julian muttered. If she finds out, she'll leave. Then maybe she should leave. This is a disaster waiting to happen. I love her, he insisted. Veronica scoffed. Do you? Or do you love the idea of her? The sweet, broken little orphan who worships the ground you walk on? Julian, I did the research. Her financial history is a mess. Credit card debt, student loans, a bankruptcy when she was 22. She's using you. She saw dollar signs and a way out of her pathetic little life. Julian yelled, Don't you dare compare her to Mom. Then Veronica's voice, softer, more dangerous. I'm just trying to protect you. You know what happened to Dad after Mom died? How that woman swooped in, played the grieving widow, and walked away with half his fortune. I won't let the same thing happen to you. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp, a sob. Credit card debt, bankruptcy. Yes, I'd had financial troubles in my early 20s. Who hadn't? But I'd worked my way out, painfully. And I never, ever saw Julian as a meal ticket. Did I? The doubt crept in like poison gas. Had some unconscious part of me been drawn to his stability, his wealth, the security my life had always lacked? No, I loved him for him. But standing there, listening to them dissect my character, my motives, my worth, something in me cracked. Something I didn't even know was fragile. I backed away silently, left the apartment, the onesie still in my purse, the secret of our child unspoken. I didn't tell him what I'd overheard. I told myself I was paranoid, that I'd misunderstood. But the words echoed in my head for weeks. Pathetic little life. She's using you. Just like Mom. The wedding preparations became a frenzied blur. My morning sickness got worse, but I hid it. I smiled through fittings, rehearsal dinners, endless relatives. Julian seemed distant, distracted. He worked late, took calls in other rooms. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at me with an unreadable expression, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Are you happy? I asked him one night, a week before the wedding. He was quiet for a long time. Too long. I love you, he finally said. Not yes. I wanted to push, to demand real answers, but I was terrified of what I might hear. So, I swallowed the question, along with all the other unspoken things. Veronica threw me a bridal shower that felt more like an interrogation. His aunts asked pointed questions about my background. Someone mentioned a prenuptial agreement. When I said we hadn't discussed one, the room went silent. Veronica just smiled. Oh, how modern, she purred. But her eyes said something else entirely. That night, I asked Julian about it. He bristled. My lawyer mentioned it, but I told him no. I trust you. But did he? The doubt was a living thing now, coiled in my stomach alongside our growing child. The morning of the wedding was chaos wrapped in silk and lace. I was nauseous, worse than usual. Not nerves. Our baby, making its presence known. I still hadn't told Julian. I kept waiting for the right moment. And now it was our wedding day. I'd have to wait until tonight, until we were alone, until everything was official. Veronica came to my dressing room an hour before. She was already in her deep burgundy maid of honor dress, looking pristine. You look beautiful, she said, but it felt hollow. She moved closer. Julian's been through a lot. Our mother's death nearly destroyed our father. He became paranoid, convinced every woman wanted his money. Julian's terrified of becoming like him. She met my eyes in the mirror. Just be patient with him. And understand, I'm only trying to protect my brother. That's what family does. She squeezed my shoulder and left, leaving behind the expensive, cold scent of her perfume. The music swelled, the doors opened. I walked down the aisle on my uncle's arm, the only family I had left. Julian stood at the altar, looking like every dream I'd ever had. For a moment, just a moment, everything else fell away. This was real. This was happening. We exchanged vows, exchanged rings. He lifted my veil. I now pronounce you husband and wife. He kissed me, and I tasted salt, his tears or mine, I didn't know. We walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, rose petals drifting like snow. Everyone was smiling. Cameras flashed. Everything was perfect. And then we moved to the garden reception. Golden hour. Waiters with champagne. Guests laughing. Julian and I stood near the fountain, accepting congratulations. He stepped away to speak with his father, and that's when Veronica appeared. She touched Julian's elbow, drew him aside. They moved toward a cluster of rose bushes. I couldn't hear, but I watched her lips move rapidly. She pulled something from her purse, a folded piece of paper. She handed it to Julian. He opened it. Read it. And I watched his face change. It was like watching ice form over water. Everything in him went cold. His jaw clenched. His hands, those hands that had touched me so gently just hours before, crumpled the paper. He looked up. His eyes found mine across the garden, and there was nothing in them I recognized. He started walking toward me. The crowd parted. Something in his expression made people instinctively step back. My heart hammered. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew it was bad. I could feel it in my bones. Julian, I whispered, my voice coming out smaller than I intended. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could smell the champagne on his breath, see the muscle jumping in his jaw. Is it true? His voice was low, dangerous. Is what true? I don't. And then his hand moved. Fast. Brutal. The crack of his palm against my cheek echoed across the garden like a gunshot. Pain exploded through my face. I stumbled, my veil slipping. My vision blurred with tears that were part pain, part shock. The entire reception went silent. I touched my burning cheek, tasted blood, and looked up at him, my husband of less than an hour. I saw a stranger. How could you, he broke. How could you do this to me? I didn't know what he was talking about. My mind was spinning. He'd hit me, in front of everyone. On our wedding day, Veronica stood behind him, hand over her mouth, eyes wide. But there was something else there, satisfaction. Then it hit me. Whatever was on that paper, whatever Veronica had told him, it was a lie. It had to be. She'd been waiting for this moment, orchestrating it, setting me up from the very beginning. The rage that swept through me was cleaner than anything I'd ever felt. It burned away the pain, the confusion, the hurt. It left only clarity. I straightened, lifted my chin, looked my husband dead in the eye. Ask me what you think I did, I said, my voice steady as stone. Say it out loud, in front of everyone. Whatever you're accusing me of, say it. Julian's face twisted. You know what you did. The money. The offshore accounts. You've been stealing from my company for the past year. His voice rose, raw with betrayal. Veronica showed me the evidence. Bank statements, wire transfers, all traced back to you. You've embezzled nearly $500,000. $500,000? Embezzlement? Offshore accounts? I almost laughed. It was so absurd, so obviously fabricated. Show me, I demanded. What? Show me this evidence. Let everyone see it. Julian hesitated. He looked at Veronica, who quickly stepped forward. I don't think this is the place. Show me. I held out my hand. Julian pulled the crumpled paper from his pocket. It was a printout of bank statements, account numbers, transaction records. My name highlighted in yellow. Hundreds of transfers, thousands of dollars each, all funneled into a Cayman Islands account. I studied it. The forgery was good, professional. Someone had spent serious time and money on this. These are fake, I said. Don't, Julian's voice cracked. Don't lie to me anymore. I had my lawyer verify everything. The account exists. The money is real. Your signature is on the transfer authorizations. Then your lawyer is incompetent or in on it. I turned to the crowd. I have never stolen a single dollar from my husband. I have never opened an offshore account. I have never signed transfer authorizations. This is a fabrication. I turned back to Julian. And I can prove it. How? Veronica's voice was sharp. I smiled at her then. A cold, terrible smile. Because I'm an accountant. And I spent the last 6 months reviewing every single financial document in Julian's company, preparing to merge our finances after the wedding. I know every account, every transaction, every signature. And these, I held up the papers, are not mine. I walked to a nearby table where my maid of honor had left her purse, pulled out my phone, opened my email, found a folder I'd been building, just in case. These, I said, holding up my phone, are the real financial records of Clark Development. And you know what I found when I was reviewing them? Interesting patterns. Money moving in ways that don't make sense. Payments to shell companies. Invoices for work that was never done. Julian's face went pale. What are you talking about? I'm talking about embezzlement. Real embezzlement. Someone has been stealing from your company for years, and I know who. I looked straight at Veronica. It's you. Veronica laughed. Actually laughed. That's insane. Why would I steal from my own family? Because your father cut you off 2 years ago, didn't he? After you blew through your trust fund gambling. Because you have debts that would bury you if they came to light. Because you saw your brother's company as a piggy bank, and you knew exactly how to access it without getting caught. I pulled up a spreadsheet on my phone. I started looking when I noticed every shell company you created to funnel money traces back to a single law firm. Your boyfriend's law firm. The same boyfriend you've been hiding from your family because they'd never approve of you dating someone so far beneath your social class. Her face went white. You're lying. Am I? Want me to show everyone his name? Want me to explain how he helped you create fake vendors, false invoices, dummy corporations? How you've stolen over $3 million in the past 5 years alone? The crowd gasped. Julian staggered backward. That's impossible. Veronica would never. She would. Yes. And she's been terrified I'd discover it. That's why she's been poisoning you against me from the beginning. That's why she fabricated this evidence tonight. She was hoping you'd divorce me immediately, before I could finish my audit. Before I could expose her. I turned to Veronica. She was shaking now, her perfect composure cracking. You almost got away with it. You're clever. The accounts are well hidden, but you made one mistake. You used the same routing number for multiple transfers. Once I spotted the pattern, the rest unraveled fast. Julian was staring at his sister like he'd never seen her before. Veronica, he whispered. She's lying, Julian. You can't believe her. She's just trying to deflect. Prove it, I said. Let's call the police right now. Let them investigate. Let's see whose accounts hold up under scrutiny. Mine or yours. Silence. Long and terrible. Then Veronica's face did something strange. The fear vanished. Her expression went smooth and cold as glass. You stupid little bitch, she said softly. You think you've won? The truth is Julian never loved you. I made sure of that. Every doubt I planted, every suspicion I nurtured, it was all real. Deep down, he never trusted you. He never believed you loved him for who he was. She turned to her brother. Tell her. Tell her how many nights you stayed awake wondering if she was using you. Tell her about the private investigator you hired to dig into her past. Julian's face confirmed it. He had. He'd actually hired someone to investigate me. Something inside me finally, irrevocably broke. You hired a private investigator? My voice was flat. You married me while believing I might be a con artist? You didn't trust me. The words came out hollow. Not ever. Not once. I wanted to. I tried, he stammered. You hit me. I touched my still burning cheek. In front of 200 people. You struck me without asking questions, without giving me a chance to defend myself. You believed her over me. Shame finally crossed his features, but it was too late. Much, much too late. I took a breath. Made my decision. I want you to know something, I said, my voice carrying across the silent garden. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. I found out 3 months ago, and I didn't tell you because I overheard you and Veronica discussing how I was just using you for your money. I was waiting for the right moment, hoping it would prove to you that my love was real. I pulled the small, wrapped package from my purse, the onesie I'd been carrying for months, and threw it at his feet. Congratulations. You're going to be a father with a woman you don't trust, who you physically assaulted in front of everyone you know on what was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. The gasps from the crowd were audible now. Phones were out, recording everything. Julian's face had gone gray. You're pregnant? I was going to tell you tonight. I had it all planned. But now, I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I'd given 3 years of my life to, and felt nothing but cold, clean rage. Now, I'm going to walk away. I'm going to divorce you before the ink on our marriage certificate is dry. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are. The kind who believes lies over the woman carrying his child. The kind who solves problems with violence. I turned to the crowd. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry you had to witness this, but I'm glad you did. Because now you all know the truth about the Clark family. About what happens behind the gates of their estate. About the rot beneath the money and the power and the perfect image. I started walking. My feet hurt. My face throbbed. My heart felt like it was tearing open, but I kept going. Behind me, I heard Julian call my name. Wait. Please. We can fix this. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking, out of the garden, through the estate, toward the front gates where my uncle was waiting with the car. Behind me Chaos erupted, shouting, Veronica's voice rising in denial, Julian's father demanding explanations. Guests whispering, phones buzzing. The story already spreading like wildfire. I didn't care. I was done. The wedding dress was ruined anyway. The story went viral by midnight. Videos of the slap, videos of my accusation, videos of me walking away, the train of my wedding dress dragging through the grass, my head held high. By morning, I was famous. Not the kind of famous anyone wants to be, but famous nonetheless. The slapped bride, the wedding revenge, the accountant who destroyed a dynasty. Julian tried to call. I blocked his number. He sent emails. I deleted them unread. He showed up at my apartment. I called the police. His lawyer sent divorce papers within a week. I signed them gladly. But I also hired my own lawyer, a good one, the kind who smelled blood in the water. We went after everything. The community property, the assets accumulated during our brief marriage, compensation for emotional distress. And we went after Veronica. The audit I'd started proved everything. The police got involved, federal investigators. It was bigger than anyone had realized. Over $5 million stolen across 7 years, funneled through fake companies and offshore accounts. Her boyfriend was arrested. Julian's company nearly collapsed. His father had a stress-induced heart attack. The family name, so carefully cultivated, was destroyed. I felt nothing watching it burn. No satisfaction, no regret. Just a hollow kind of tiredness. I moved across the country, to San Diego, where the weather was always perfect and no one knew my face. I had the baby, a girl. She had Julian's eyes and my mother's chin, and a fierce scream that made the nurses laugh. I named her Grace, after my mom. Julian tried to establish visitation rights. My lawyer fought him. The video of the slap was shown in family court. The judge's expression was carved from ice. You struck your pregnant wife in public, she said. Supervised visitation only, pending anger management and family counseling. And you will pay substantial child support. He left the courtroom looking like a ghost. I didn't feel victorious. I felt sad. Sad for what could have been. Sad for Grace, who would grow up with a father who'd never really be present. Sad for the girl I'd been, the one who thought love could heal all wounds. But I built a life anyway. I started my own accounting firm, specializing in forensic audits. Turns out there's good money in exposing embezzlers and financial fraud. Who knew? Grace grew. She learned to smile, to laugh, to crawl. She filled the apartment with noise and chaos and love. My uncle helped. Friends from my old life reached out, offering support. I wasn't alone. And slowly, carefully, I learned to be happy again. Not the explosive, desperate happiness I'd felt with Julian. Something quieter, steadier. I was in my office when the call came. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. It's me, Julian. His voice, older somehow. Tired. I should hang up, but curiosity held me. What do you want? I wanted you to know. Veronica was sentenced today. 15 years federal prison. I know. I read about it. I also wanted to say. He paused. I could hear him breathing, gathering courage. I'm sorry. For everything. You were right about all of it. I didn't trust you. I let her poison me against you. And I hate you. I hate myself for that every single day. Good. Another pause. How's Grace? She's perfect. And you'll see her next month for your supervised visit. Right. Yes. He cleared his throat. Are you happy? I looked around my office, at the diplomas on the wall, the photos of Grace on my desk, the case files stacked neatly. At the life I'd built from ashes and rage and sheer, stubborn will. Yes, I said. I am. That's good. His voice cracked. I really did love you, you know. I just didn't know how to trust it. I know. If I could go back. But you can't, I said gently. None of us can. We just have to live with what we've done. Silence. Then quietly, goodbye. Goodbye, Julian. I hung up. Looked at Grace's photo. She was grinning at the camera, ice cream smeared across her face. Pure joy radiating from every pixel. She would never see me crumble the way I almost had. She would grow up knowing her mother had stood up, brushed off the ashes, and built something beautiful from the ruins. I picked up my phone again. Text from my uncle. Dinner this weekend. Grace has been asking for her favorite pancakes. I smiled and typed back, wouldn't miss it. Then I returned to the file on my desk. A new case. A woman who suspected her business partner was embezzling. She'd come to me yesterday, nervous and shaking, asking if I could help. I'd looked at her and seen myself 3 years ago, lost, betrayed, desperate for someone to believe her. I can help, I told her. And I will. People always ask me if I regret it. Walking away from the money, from the lifestyle, from the man I'd loved. The answer is complicated. I don't regret leaving. I don't regret exposing the truth. I don't regret choosing myself and my daughter over a life built on lies and suspicion. But I do grieve. I grieve for the version of us that could have existed if Julian had trusted me. If Veronica hadn't been a viper in designer clothes. If love had been enough to overcome fear and doubt and the poison of old family wounds. I grieve for the girl I was, the one who thought a man could save her from loneliness, who believed that love was supposed to hurt a little, that it required sacrifice and silence and swallowing your truth to make someone else comfortable. I know better now. Love isn't supposed to hurt. Real love, the kind worth having, makes you bigger, not smaller. It gives you room to breathe, to grow, to be wholly yourself. It doesn't demand that you prove yourself over and over. It doesn't keep you up at night wondering if you're good enough, worthy enough, real enough. Julian's love was a cage dressed up as a castle. And the moment I walked out of that garden, wedding dress trailing behind me, face throbbing with pain, that was the moment I became free. 6 months after the divorce, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a letter, handwritten on expensive stationery. It was from Veronica. I'm writing this from a place you'll never visit, it began. The irony isn't lost on me. I spent years stealing money to maintain a lifestyle I thought I deserved. And now I'm in a cell that costs taxpayers $40,000 a year. I'm not writing to apologize for what I did to Julian's company. I'm only sorry I got caught. But I am sorry for what I did to you. You were collateral damage in a war you didn't even know you were fighting. My war against my father's favoritism, my brother's golden boy status, my own inadequacy. You walked into our family believing love was enough. And I made it my mission to prove you were just another gold digger. The truth? I was jealous. You had something I've never had. The ability to love without calculation, to give without keeping score. Julian saw that in you, and it terrified him because it was real. And I couldn't stand watching him have something I knew I'd never find. So I destroyed it. I destroyed you. I destroyed him. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that you were right about everything. Every accusation, every ugly truth you threw in my face that day. And I wanted you to know something else. You won. Not because you exposed me. Not because you walked away. But because you survived. Because you're raising my niece somewhere, building a life, being happy. That's the thing I can't forgive you for. Not that you ruined us, but that you didn't let us ruin you. I read that letter 3 times. Then I burned it in the sink, watching the expensive paper curl and blacken, turning to ash. Grace was napping in the next room. Through the window, I could see the ocean, endless and blue, indifferent to human drama. I thought about writing back, about telling Veronica that she was wrong, that they had ruined me in ways I was still discovering. That some nights I woke up gasping, dreaming of that moment when Julian's hand connected with my face. That I flinched when men raised their voices. That I questioned every kindness, looking for the trap beneath it. But I didn't write back, because the truth was more complicated than either victory or defeat. They had broken something in me, but I had rebuilt myself from the pieces, and the new version was stronger, harder, less willing to bend, less willing to believe that love required me to shrink. Maybe that was winning, or maybe it was just survival. Either way, I was here. I was standing. I was whole enough, and that would have to be enough. Grace was 3 years old when Julian showed up at my door. Not the broken man who'd called me that day. Not the ghost who showed up for supervised visits, barely able to meet my eyes. This was someone different. Older, gray around the temples. But there was something in his face, a stillness that hadn't been there before. I know I shouldn't be here, he said, but I needed to give you this. He held out an envelope, thick, official-looking. I didn't take it. What is it? Veronica died 2 weeks ago. Lung cancer. It was fast. I felt nothing. No grief, no satisfaction. Just a distant acknowledgement. Why are you telling me? Because she left something for you. For Grace. He pushed the envelope toward me. Please, just take it. I took it. Inside was a legal document. A trust fund. $2 million, placed in Grace's name. Inaccessible until she turned 25. For the girl I'll never meet, the attached note read. So she'll never have to marry for security. So she'll never have to wonder if she's worthy of love without strings. So she can be what I never was, free. Your aunt, who loved you in the only way she knew how. From a distance, with money, making sure you'd never need to become me. I stared at the document for a long time. Julian stood on my doorstep. She spent the last year of her life setting this up, he said quietly. She wanted to make sure it couldn't be contested, that it would be airtight. She said. He swallowed hard. She said it was the only good thing she'd ever done. It doesn't change anything, I said. I know it doesn't make her a good person. I know that too. But Grace will have options. Security. A foundation. I looked up at him. Thank you for bringing this. He nodded, started to turn away, then stopped. I'm in therapy. Real therapy. Not the court-mandated kind. I'm working on. He gestured helplessly. Everything. The anger. The trust issues. The damage my family did to me, and I did to you. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. Good. And I wanted you to know that you were the best thing that ever happened to me. Even though I destroyed it. Even though I didn't deserve it. His eyes were wet. You and Grace. You're the only real things I ever had. Julian, I'm not trying to win you back. I know that's impossible. I just needed to say it. Once. Out loud. He stepped back. Take care of yourself. Both of you. He walked away, down the path to his car, and drove away. I stood there, holding $2 million in a trust fund created by a dead woman who'd hated me, and loved me, and destroyed me, and in the end, tried to save my daughter from her own legacy. Grace called from inside. Mama. Mama, come see. I closed the door, locked it, put the envelope in my desk drawer, and went to see what my daughter had built with her blocks. Something precarious and colorful, held together with the absolute certainty only a 3-year-old possesses. Look, she said proudly. It's a castle, and nothing can knock it down, because I made it strong. I kissed the top of her head. That's right, baby. You made it strong. And that's all that matters. Grace grew. She was 7 now, then 10, then 13. She asked questions about her father, about the wedding day she'd heard whispered about, but never fully understood. I told her the truth. Age-appropriate versions at first, then more detail as she got older. I even showed her the video. Yes, it's still out there, immortal in the way internet infamy always is. I let her see the moment her father struck me. The moment I stood tall. The moment I walked away. Were you scared? She asked. Terrified. But I did it anyway. Why? I thought about this. How to distill years of pain and growth and hard-won wisdom into something a 13-year-old could understand. Because staying would have taught you the wrong lesson. It would have taught you that love means accepting cruelty. That marriage means silence. That being hid is something you forgive and forget and pretend didn't happen. I took her hand. I wanted you to grow up knowing that you're worth more than that. That we're both worth more. She was quiet for a long time. Then, did you love him? Yes. Very much. Do you still? No. I love who I thought he was. But that person never really existed. The real Julian was too damaged, too afraid, too poisoned by his family to be the partner I needed. I squeezed her hand. But I got you. And you're real. You're the best thing that came from all of it. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I'm glad you walked away. Me too, baby. Me too. Julian remarried eventually. A quiet woman, a therapist actually. Someone who understood his damage and chose to love him anyway. They had a son. He sent me a photo. I texted back, congratulations, and meant it. My uncle passed away when Grace was 12. We mourned him together, planting a tree in his memory, telling stories about his terrible jokes and his fierce love. Grace gave the eulogy at his funeral, poised and brave and heartbreaking. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. I wasn't sure I wanted serious. I'd learned to be happy alone, with Grace, with the life we'd built. Adding someone else felt risky, unnecessary. But there was a man, eventually. A teacher at Grace's school. Kind eyes, patient. He'd been through his own divorce, raised his own kids, understood that some doors inside me would always be locked. I'm not looking to save you, he told me on our 3rd date. You're not broken. You're just careful. And that's okay. We took it slow. Grace graduated high school before I let him move in. But it worked. It was good. It was real. Not passionate like Julian. Not consuming. But steady. Built on truth instead of fantasy. And that, I learned, was its own kind of love story. People still recognize me sometimes. The video has been viewed millions of times. The Slapped Bride is a cautionary tale, a revenge fantasy, a symbol of female empowerment, or everything wrong with cancel culture. Depending on who's talking, I don't care anymore. Let them project whatever they need onto that moment. Let them turn it into a meme, a think piece, a case study. I know what it really was. The end of one story and the beginning of another. The first story was about a girl who thought love meant sacrifice, who believed that if she was just good enough, pure enough, loving enough, she could heal a damaged man and build a perfect life from the ruins of her grief. The second story is about a woman who knows better, who understands that you can't love someone into wholeness. That trust is the foundation of everything. That violence, even once, even in public, even with an apology, is never acceptable. That walking away is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. My daughter is applying to colleges now. She wants to study law, fight for domestic violence survivors. She says I inspired her, but I think she's just braver than I ever was. She didn't have to learn strength from breaking. She was born into it, raised in it, breathing it like air. The trust fund Veronica left will pay for her education. The life insurance from my uncle will supplement it. And the business I built, the accounting firm that specializes in exposing financial abusers, is thriving. I've helped dozens of women escape relationships built on economic control. I've testified in court. I've frozen assets, found hidden money, proved the patterns of theft and manipulation that keep victims trapped. I turn my nightmare into my life's work. And every time I help someone escape, every time I watch recognition dawn in a client's eyes as they realize they're not crazy, they're not imagining things, they're being systematically robbed and gaslit. Every time that happens, I think about that moment in the garden. The moment Julian's hand connected with my face. The moment I decided not to crumble. The moment I looked at him, at Veronica, at the 200 guests, and chose myself. That moment changed everything. Not because it made me stronger, I was always strong, but because it showed me that I was allowed to use that strength, that I didn't have to shrink, that I could stand in the wreckage of my dreams and say, "This is not acceptable. I am worth more. I deserve better," and then walk toward the life that proved it. So yes, my husband slapped me in the middle of our wedding. And what I did next, standing tall, speaking truth, walking away, rebuilding, surviving, thriving, didn't just ruin him. It saved me. And in the end, that was always the more important story. Have you ever faced a moment in your life where you had to choose yourself, even when it felt like everything was falling apart? What did you do? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening.